Tadoff, the Managing Director, also in the one CGIR, and current Director General of Africa Rice, Dr. Harold Macaulay, the President of the World Food Prize Foundation, Barbara Stenson, Director for the Department of Agriculture and Agro-Industry, the African Development Bank, Martin Fregene, Agri Vice President, Dr. George Bigewa, Her Royal Majesty, wife of the Totif of Benue State, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Mrs. Felicia Ayatse, former Chairman Board of Directors of the IITA Board of Trustees, Dr. Ingungi Namanga, World Food Prize winner, Dr. John Lowe, members of the private sector, particularly seed companies here present, directors and chief executives of other development partners, members of the press, online participants, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Director General of IITA, I bring you greetings, and it gladdens my heart to welcome you all to this breakfast meeting with the theme, Cassava Seed System, Building Resilience and Creating Jobs. As you may have been aware, cassava is a primary staple food crop, widely grown across Africa owing to its wide adaptability, economic importance, and acceptance in rural and urban settings. This root crop is also increasingly becoming a source of raw materials for food and feed and industrial applications. However, cassava potential is constrained by low yields, less than 10 tons per hectare compared to Asia at greater than 20 tons per hectare, occasioned by a lack of a formal seed system which hinders farmers' access and adoption of improved varieties. In East, South, and Central Africa, cassava yields are impacted by cassava brown streak disease, which undermines the yield and quality of the roots. Across West Africa, access to improved varieties is still a challenge, and lack of access to improved varieties is a significant factor driving the low yields. Most farmers use varieties which are generally called local varieties or recycled planting materials, mostly farmer saved and often diseased with disease like the cassava mosaic, with low genetic potential. Governments and NGOs have often sought to address this through publicly funded multiplication and distribution programs that target replacing local varieties with improved varieties. However, the distribution is usually uncoordinated, planting material
bread went up in Nigeria, we woke up to reality of our inadequacy. That's what makes me sad. What makes me happy, of course, is that we are talking about cassava. I grew up on cassava, mainly in my village. And to make you understand the importance of cassava, when I left secondary school, I decided to take up teaching. And there were two of us in Ibadan, teaching in a modern secondary school. I had nobody with me. The second teacher, who was my friend, had a boy working with him, staying with him. And he decided to make a food timetable so that the boy can prepare food Monday to Sunday. And for us in Nigeria, particularly in my part of the country, gari is a sort of flour we make from cassava. And when we make it we turn it into water, hot water, and it becomes solid, instead of making it as a flour, we call it eba. So gari, eba, is a transformation of gari into something solid, which you can swallow. And my colleague and friend prepared his timetable. And it goes something like this: morning, afternoon, dinner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's Monday, gari, eba, gari. Tuesday, gari, gari, eba. Wednesday, eba, eba, gari. The only thing that changes was the stew that will go with the eba. The gari is for drinking, and and that is for you to see how much we relied on cassava. When I was growing up again, cassava served a good purpose in that when there is drought, cassava remains in the soil. It will drop its leaf, but the tuber remains there, and whenever rain comes, it springs up again. So for us, it is one crop that we have that made sure that drought or no drought, we have then, of course, the local variety not produce this type that you see here, which is the product of technology. And I first saw the effect and the good effect of technology. About 1979, when we had something they call mealybug, and the head of the cassava tree, stem, the leaf, come together, and it didn't really give us much of tuber. But within a space of 2 years, IITA found solution, and they gave us cassava that was mealybug free. And that was the first, to me, of what technology and scientists can do. Then, of course, what they have done is what you see here. Normally, in the local cassava, if you get tuber of 3 or cassava of 3 tubers, you are lucky. Now, I think you have about a dozen here. So when I became president, we had a problem, particularly a problem I have experienced when I was military head of state, of the amount of money we were spending on wheat importation. And the Americans did that very well. They made us to develop this for bread. And they gave us something they call PL 480, I think. PL 480, which made us to develop taste for bread. And bread is very handy. You can carry it anywhere, put it in your pocket, which most of our food cannot be done. And we got addicted to bread. And yet, in most of our climate, we cannot produce wheat. And we had this problem. And I tried mildly to try and control importation of wheat. And I sensed that I was going to have riot on my hand, so I withdrew. I realized that we couldn't do without wheat. But what could we do? Could we modify? And one of the things we came up with was to add cassava into wheat flour. And we did it fairly successfully. We started with 10%, and now 20%, you won't really know much difference. And it will be as good as full wheat flour bread. So we now have our situation, as you have heard, in Nigeria and Tanzania, where with what we are doing, we now can get bread with 20% cassava flour, which of course means that farmers can grow better cassava and produce more. Those who need to eat gari and eba can produce gari and eba. But more importantly is that 20% can now go into bread making, which means that we can save 20% of importation of wheat. Of course, there are countries in Africa that can produce wheat. We should also encourage them to produce wheat for themselves, to be self-sufficient, and maybe also to export to other parts of Africa. But the purpose of this meeting, as you have heard, is really to show that farmers in cassava growing countries are creating wealth from the sale of high quality cassava planting materials. And I have seen this cassava seed system, which is really, really good. Normally we plant the stem, but the new system, you really have the seedling, and you can carry in a car seedling to plant 10 hectares of land in your car. With the stem, there's limit to how much you can carry. We also, I hope at this meeting we will share studies on profitability of cassava, early generation seed production entities. We share best practice in building sustainable cassava seed system. Advocate for more investment in cassava seed system as the new gold mine for economic prosperity and job creation. And share experiences from Nigeria and Tanzania for scaling and replicability to other African countries where cassava plays significant role in both food security, wealth creation, and employment generation. I encourage you to sit comfortably, listen, and enjoy your breakfast. Over to you, Godwin.
Please, may we give a rousing a clap for the president. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. He speaks as one that is in the field, and that is the reality of it. Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, let me invite the Deputy Director, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Lauren Gould, to come and share with us some perspectives from the foundation, how they're looking at cassava seed system. A round of applause to him. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Great to see this event happening along with AGRF this year. So I'm delighted. There's so many friendly, old friend faces in the crowd that it's really encouraging. I feel like when I get up here and get a chance to talk about cassava, it's I'm definitely preaching to the choir in this room. You're already believers, and I think that's what's brought you here. I won't dwell on all of the importance you had. We had some of that already this morning about the criticality of cassava and root crops in Africa, and I think that's only been elevated over the past 3 years, where we've had global supply chains disrupted with wheat, with the Ukraine-Russia war, but also increase in fertilizer prices that makes certain crops very difficult and not very profitable. And so some of the traditional crops and root crops in particular, which always had this reputation of being more of the the poor persons, the poor farmers' crops are just not that way anymore. And I think we saw this happening. So from the Gates Foundation, when we focused on staple crops about 15 years ago, there was kind of a push saying we can't ignore the root and tuber crops. And particularly cassava was one that kind of raised up there. So this is kind of prior to me being at the foundation, but I had some good colleagues who were real believers. Many of you know Lawrence Kent and Regina Kapinga, who were at the foundation, and they said, we have to do something with cassava, because one of the first investments that they made was the GLCI, the Great Lakes Cassava Initiative. And that was really a time where we wanted to get massive amounts of planting material out of a few new varieties. And then Brown Street hit, and Mosaic came on, I guess, first. And there was just a lot of loss. And there was seed fields that could not be used for distributed. And we realized that the way it was being distributed was, for the most part, grow as much as you can, cut it, figure the best distribution so you can go give it away. And so after that, as kind of a result of that, and also seeing the devastation of multiplying plantlets that were sometimes going and stems that were going to the field and then actually spreading some of the viral diseases, we said there has to be a different way. So kind of in connection with a number of different groups, the Gates Foundation made the first grant to a NGO, MEDA, and MEDA brought me on kind of for that opening project. And it was not something that I knew anything about in cassava or seed systems. But what they said is, we want someone, there will be people in Tanzania who know the crop and all of that. What we want is someone who can try to look at this from a business perspective. Is there a case for actually having a seed system which involves people paying for it? And that was, we went around and found that there was a lot of informal trading. People were buying bundles of seed from neighbors, from other people when they did not have it themselves. And so that was kind of the genesis of this. We saw that there was a lot of sharing and said, is there a way that you could build an entrepreneurial model that maybe had several steps that had a quality assurance component in there, where you could really ensure that you were delivering clean stems. And that meant choosing the best varieties that were out, continuing to work on the breeding to develop higher resistance until you could get a total resistance, but working with the best available. And at that time in Tanzania, there wasn't perfect, but there was a few that did pretty well. Kiroba was doing really well in the coastal regions. And so we started up this program, and Stephen McGeegay was the first person I hired, and I'm delighted that he's still in it. We came up with a name. I challenged the team to come up with a name, and it was Muhogo Mbegu Bingwa. As the first kind of cassava champion, the seed champions, and so that was kind of it was basically a test. The foundation and the people in our ag development group said, we don't know if it's going to work. It hasn't really been done, but if it's not done, if we don't try it, we'll never know if it was possible. Is there a way to take this and make that, give incentive for farmers to bring in new varieties? So there was a lot of skeptics. And I remember Stephen and I going around Tanzania with people like Ed Kanju and James Legg from IATA. We traveled all around to visit a lot of, and kind of floated our ideas. And in many of those meetings, I just remember very polite nods of head, like, yes, very nice, go ahead and try it. And I knew they didn't believe it. But fortunately, we went on and said, well, we're going to continue to try it. And we met some good folks who were willing to take a risk and to try this. So, and then the results were surprising. And there was a parallel work that was happening in Nigeria that was working with Catholic Relief Services initially, working closely with IATA to try to develop a similar entrepreneurial model. And the results just, were very encouraging from the start. Farmers in Nigeria were willing to pay entrepreneurs for stems because they liked the varieties. They were getting access to some varieties that they had not had. That was the real prime driver of that first, I think the first success in Nigeria with CRS. Then in Tanzania, it was pretty much also a variety, but it was being able to get access to Kiroba, primarily in the eastern region, southern area down to Mtwara and areas, and really expand the use of that, which had the best resistance for that. So we saw there is a value. And if we can get better and better germplasm coming in through the breeding programs, this is an effective way of getting those varieties out and actually giving some confidence to the farmers that it's worthwhile paying and putting their money in. It's a good return on their investment. And then we also saw it was a good investment for the seed entrepreneurs. I remembered one of our first down in Mtwara, a gentleman who was affectionately known as Mosea Wakajiji. He had cashew farms, and he had a family, a large farming family, and he decided he thought there was possibility here, and his family almost disowned him because he was cutting down cashew trees to plant cassava, and they thought that was just the craziest thing. But within 2 years, he was making more money than any of his neighbors around there, and he was very successful because he was one of the first early adopters, and there wasn't other seed around, and people were so starved to get that. So we saw, and we did some modeling. We saw that at the various stages of the seed chain, you can't just have that village entrepreneurial model. You need basic seed production or foundation seed, and you need the breeder seed or pre-basic seed, and you had to have different quality. So then working along with the regulatory agencies, NASC in Nigeria and TOSCI in Tanzania, tried to put together what would a fit for purpose regulatory package be for this. So as we did all of this together, I transitioned to the Gates Foundation at that point and started leading some of this work and focusing on it and expanding it, kind of similar processes for yam and sweet potato and banana. And we were seeing that farmers were starting to benefit, and we saw that was happening, and we saw it was worthy of pursuing. And I think at this point, we've seen that the entrepreneurs are benefiting because they can make money, and the farmers are buying because it's a good value for them. So now I know there's something over 1,000 cassava seed entrepreneurs between Nigeria and Tanzania. There's also many other ones who've replicated it informally, maybe not the full system, but doing very similar in some of the neighboring countries. So that's the encouraging, the way we like to work. That I think that's the best compliment you can see is when someone is replicating, copying the work that you've done. So that original investment kind of has transitioned into this Basics 2 program. IATA has done a great job. We wanted that to integrate the work that was in Nigeria and Tanzania that NIDA was leading under their BEST project. And this has really been helped by bringing a tighter collaboration with the breeding, the scientific side, with the marketing, and what's the business model for making this work. And I think we're seeing new channels now to get higher yielding, disease resistant varieties, early generation companies and organizations that are focusing on that, where you're seeing the newer technologies, the pencil stems, some of these things that we've seen in other areas of the world, like Brazil, that is working in similar technologies, but the SA plantlets. I think this is all kind of leading to the next phase where cassava, the whole seed system, is becoming a little more technical at the top, which allows for greater scaling. And so some of that work is now being developed further into the 1CGIAR, and I see that where we can actually expand by bringing together the other vegetative crops in the same to a similar process, similar philosophy of moving away from just free distribution is the only way to get planting material out. You can supported research, supported programs that help defray some of those upstream costs, but much of the work can pay for itself when you get down to the level because it makes economic sense. So we're delighted to be here. I think that this is an area that we're excited about. I want to give good wishes to everyone in the room. I want to bring the best wishes from Lawrence Kent, who couldn't be here, who probably would have enjoyed talking and catching up with so many of you that he hasn't seen in the last 3 years either. So I'm eager to hear what new is happening and where we move today. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Lauren Good, for those remarks and sharing with us how you started the whole process. A round of applause to him, please. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, I invite the AGRA Vice President, George Bigewa, to come and give us a goodwill message. Let's encourage him with a round of applause, please.
Your Excellency, Chief Obasanjo, distinguished delegates, all protocols duly observed. I bring you greetings from AGRA management, and we are grateful to IITA, Basics 2 and TAT for convening this important side event on cassava. And thank you once again for inviting AGRA to deliver goodwill message. As AGRA, we have been closely following developments of Basics 2 initiative. Reason being, cassava is a crop we treasure so much because of its strategic role in addressing food security, improving incomes of many farmers in Africa, and its resilient nature. Besides abiotic stresses like African cassava mosaic, brown streak, which really over time curtailed cassava production, availability of clean planting materials has equally been a limiting factor. In early phases of AGRA's operation, we supported cassava variety development, release, and production of planting materials. And indeed, a lot of progress was made in countries like Tanzania, both the mainland and Zanzibar, in Uganda, Kenya, Ghana, Malawi, Mozambique, and Nigeria. Now, to buttress this work, over 10 cassava breeders were trained, and this led to the release of close to 27 cassava varieties. Again, AGRA invested in multiplication of planting materials and farmer awareness creation. This saw the formation of several cassava multiplication groups and individuals in different countries. And in some countries, even the seed companies were enticed. And even up to today, if you are still multiplying cassava planting materials, in addition to producing seed of other staple crops. However, when Basics 2 and other partners came on board, we decided to pull back because we saw no reason of duplicating the initiatives and the activities they were doing. As a result of that good work, we are seeing a lot of improvement in terms of farmers' yields, and more importantly, establishment of sustainable enterprises and entrepreneurs involved in the multiplication of cassava planting materials. This has gone a long way to ensure that there's sustainable production, but more importantly, ensuring that what farmers are getting is good quality. In some countries, we have seen the initiatives leading to improvement and putting in place cassava inspection protocols, because you have worked closely with the various seed regulatory agencies. Some of the techniques and principles, together with approaches from this initiative, have been applied in a number of countries. And we have seen those work in countries like Ghana and Mozambique, where we have just concluded work on consortia. And in those countries, we have seen again, factories which were underperforming because of limited supply of cassava. There's now steady supply because farmers have been in position to avail planting materials to those factories. We see a lot of complementarity of this work with AGRA's new initiative, the Center of Excellence for Seed Systems in Africa, CESA, and we look forward really to working together to broaden the different components along the seed value chain, right from creating awareness, producing early generation seed, improving the quality by supporting the regulatory agencies, and even working with governments to ensure that the right policy frameworks are put in place. And by so doing, we believe this also will add value, and also CESA will complement initiatives of BASICS and other partners in this project. So I'd like to say thank you for the good job you are doing. Continue doing that. We'll closely work with you, and I think we'll be in a position to bring about change in the cassava industry. I thank you.
Thank you so much, George, for those remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a breakfast meeting. We intend to stop by 8:55 Rwandan time. May I request that all the people on the panel, Her Royal Majesty Felicia Yetse, please can you take your seat? May I also request that we have Msape Botu to take your seat. Dr. Messi, take your seat. Dr. Tanas, take your seat. Chris, take your seat. And Paul Domo, please can you take your seat. Let me invite Professor Latif Sani to come over and speak briefly about the Basics 2 project. Please can you load his slide? And after that, we will move into discussion. Thank you.
The slide?
the stamps. So I started in 2020 during the COVID pandemic. I was tired of staying at home because of lockdown. So I had to look for a way of whiling away time. And in the course of this, I met one of her subjects who is already into cassava farming. She came and we interacted, and she told me that I could try cassava farming, and I did. And my experience last year was fantastic, which encouraged me to go into seed production. The cassava farm I started with was 10 hectares. I got improved varieties such as TME beef 419, which is popularly known as 419 in Nigeria. I also got other varieties like Dixon and got the Sunshine and the Farmer's Pride. And I planted a few hectares. I had more of 419. And at the end of the, I followed the 6 steps of cultivating and planting cassava, which meant that I have to apply herbicide at the right time and apply the necessary input, such as fertilizer, also at the right time. And I had to get seed trackers to the Association of NAT that visited a farm, who certified the farm. Surprisingly, because of the way the weeds were controlled, and the farm did fantastic well. But last year, 2021, when it was time to plant cassava again, several seed entrepreneurs came requesting to buy my seeds. And they bought. And to my greatest surprise, I was able to sell part of the seeds at 1.7 million naira. I preserved some for my own farm. So I didn't sell all. Then I was introduced into seed farming, and I became a seed foundation producer. So I followed the steps as usual. Last year, I moved from 20 to 30 hectares of cassava farm and followed the steps duly. The farm was certified by the National Association, NAS, and other bodies that are relevant. At the end of this year, sometime this year, during the planting season, which is still ongoing, I have sold cassava seed for over 3 million, and I have still had more than enough to plant on my farm. And I'm surprised. Now, what really baffled me was that after the sale of last year from the 2020 cassava farm, the cassava stock that were left in the ground sprung up several stems, and I was guided and took care of the farm very well. Weeds were controlled, applied fertilizer again, and the seed, the stems grew up well, and this year I was able to sell them. That's the difference. So I have been able to realize over 5 million from cassava seed just within 3 years of my experience. Something I didn't imagine, I didn't think of. And as a result of this, I have quickly thought about mobilizing women, the youth, and men to join me in this, seeing that this is going to be very useful in reducing poverty. So I have introduced cooperatives one is already into cassava farming and we started this year. I have started some. They are in the process of registration, and I intend to sensitize our people more and bring them into cassava farming as quickly as possible. God helping me. So it has been very, very rewarding experience, and I want to call on all African nations to collaborate, to come in, to join. Let's work together and kick out poverty on the African continent through cassava production. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. A round of applause. Let me invite Steve Magiga to come over and tell us in a minute, what is happening in Tanzania, and then the seed entrepreneur.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Stephen Magiga. I work for MIDA in Tanzania, and also I'm leading component 3 of the basic 2. Quickly, I'll go through some of the achievements that the seed system have contributed, starting with the variety that has been released. We have 5 varieties that has been released, and also 17 in the pipeline. This variety is resistant to disease, and also they provide high yield to the farmers. And also we have a quality assurance system. So the seed producers are inspected to make sure that what comes out of the CSC are of good quality. And also we have a network of cassava seed entrepreneurs. In total, we have 641 distributed all over the cassava growing area. And the CSC are getting proofing, as we can hear, we'll be hearing soon from Sabe. But also the seed system alone cannot work well. We have some supporting structure. We have the association that is helping with coordinating for inspection, registering farmers, but also linking with the market. We know that cassava is payback period is long. Then the association has established a savings and a credit cooperative that can customize financial services needs of the cassava farmer and the seed entrepreneur. And also the project, the model has been replicated in other areas, like in Kenya, with the Vika Plus project in their component 3. They're using our model on distribution. And also in Tanzania, we have Muhogo Bora. It's operating in areas where basic 2 is not there. And also recently, Vika Plus will be extended to Rwanda, and they will use the same model in their distribution component. In a nutshell, the project has helped with food security, system change, and also created decent work to directly to 641 CSC. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, for that. Because he is on the project side, he has a seed entrepreneur who should speak. What is happening on your farm in the next minutes, sir? You can use mine.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm a seed entrepreneur from Tanzania. I'm based in the east part of the country, in Coast region. I started the cassava seed farm in 2015, and there was a project with Agra, and then later I joined the Best Cassava project. But what I'm doing over there, I started with 5 acres of cassava seed in Tanzania. At that time, the main variety was Miroba. At the moment, I have 40 acres of cassava seeds, and I have moved from 1 variety to about 6 varieties, which are in demand at the moment. We sell this cassava seeds to initially we started with local governments. They are buying the seed from my farm because they are certified. We started with Tari certifying, but later on with another institution called Goski, which certified seed, all the seed materials in Tanzania. This government were distributing the seed to farmers, but this was not working very well. In the recent, we also had some NGOs like World Vision. They bought a lot of seed from farm and distributed to farmers. But what we've seen is that after those projects gone out, finished, the farmers are now coming straight to farms, and they want to buy seed from us because of the returns they get from the improved seeds that we are using compared to what they get from the traditional seed. Then we, under the Best Cassava project, one of the good things that happened is we asked as the seed entrepreneurs, we work together to form an association so that we can reach all the road producers in the areas that we work. Transporting seed is a bit of difficult because of the vastness of cassava seed. So presence of number of seed entrepreneurs in many places enable farmers to get their seed easily from the nearby seed producers. In terms of market, yes, we are able to sell most of the seed. For instance, in 2020, there's one this which launched a project to ensure that they produce cassava and they had a market selling the cassava roots to China. In that year, we almost sold all the seed from many of our farms. I, for one, I sold more than 50,000. The seed was more than $50,000, 150 million transaction, which was quite a lot for me and the seed entrepreneurs. Together with that, as part of the seed system, I'm also doing. I had a greenhouse where I helped I do the two-node multiplication where I quickly multiply new varieties, and I'm able to deliver those varieties to those producers in time. Together also in that system, I also do a lot of banana plants and other seed products. So that enables me to make money from the cassava and other seeds. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. A round of applause to him. And let's take the microphone to Mercy. Mercy is actually the manager of one of the first early generation seed companies that is focusing on cassava. Please, can you tell us the viability of the early generation seed? Is there a market for your product?
Thank you very much, Dr. Golden, for that question. So I think definitely there is money in it because, as has been heard by all speakers, the need is there, the demand is there. However, the real market comes in formalizing the system. There's been so much informal selling and all that here, which is not sustainable as it were. But now with the formalization and of course with the help of the Basics project, which the regulatory body, at least in Nigeria, NAS, and in Tanzania, we have SOSCI. So they are breaking, we are synergizing with the informal seller because we don't want to put them aside. They have these experiences, but they have to be brought into the formal fold to tell them how it's being done and make, for people and produce products for people. And that will have give them quality for what or value for what they are paying for. So it's been very rewarding, and it has served as a good channel for bringing out this new variety because it's having this new varieties that you can increase your productivity and all that. And looking at one of the major challenges of the crop, which is the production of the planting material, we have been able to use technology, to rapidly multiply these materials and make them available. Because when we are talking about new varieties, you're going to meet farmers. In the past, it's not as if these farmers do not want this variety, but the challenge has always been, where do we get them? You have released your variety as breeders and you have placed them on the shelf. How do we get there? So through the project, we're able to work on using technology. We have the estate technology that is becoming very popular. And we can see some of the products of the materials here. In 2020, that was the COVID year, about 5 varieties were released, and these are super varieties in terms of the starch and dry matter. And because we have diverse uses of cassava, if it was before, these varieties up till now would have just been on the shelf, wouldn't have had any access, the farmers wouldn't have been able to access them. But now we have been able to multiply and have them in excess, and therefore there is so much demand. So you can imagine, we are not even sure we're going to be meeting the demand for the variety.
Thank you.
Through, the ability of any generations.
Thank you so much, Mercy. Let's go to Pat. Let's hand over the microphone to Chris. That was quite illuminating. Chris, just pass the microphone that is working to Chris. Atanas, can you pass the microphone to Chris? Can you tell us how Pat from the African Development Bank funded project is ensuring that we push this to other countries? Over to you, Chris.
Thank you very much for coming. TAD, we call it Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation. This is an initiative of the African Development Bank in close collaboration with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The main goal of TAD is basically to technologies that have been proven and to see how this can be expanded across Africa to increase productivity and reach 40 million or over 40 million smallholder farmers. They have some targets to meet, but the key way to meet these targets is to make sure productivity is enhanced. And to improve productivity, we have to look at the seed system. We are focusing on the seed system on a number of crops. For example, wheat. How do we take heat-tolerant wheat and make sure it's available to farmers across Africa? How do we take the hybrid rice seed to make sure it's distributed? Drought-tolerant maize to make sure it's distributed. And of course, cassava. The seed system, the semi-autotrophic hydroponics are some of the innovative techniques that we are using in the project. So this is one of the techniques that we are promoting. And so far, we have already established about 6 laboratories across some of the cassava producing countries in Africa. Our aim is to make sure that all the countries that are growing cassava have this technology established so that they can to make sure that we feed into the value system and to make sure that we can produce high quality for bread, for biscuits, and all the confectionery that we want to substitute with, which we all know is becoming necessary across Africa.
Thank you, Chris, for that. Let's hand over the microphone to Paul. Paul, can you tell us what we can learn from the potato value chain as cassava is coming behind potato? In 1 minute, then we hand over the microphone to His Excellency who wants to.
Yeah, thank you very much. Potatoes, understanding what is known as Irish potato and also what we know as sweet potato. We have a seed system, as you have said, that are relatively more advanced than cassava. The question is, what can we learn from it for cassava? As we know, potato and sweet potato physiologically can be multiplied both stems and also through roots and tubers. That's one major characteristic that makes it easier. We can store the roots, we can store the tubers, we can do the storage of cassava roots. So we have to understand the crop, the physiology, and try to devise a multiplication method around the crop in a way that it will not only be technically feasible, but financially feasible, because we are talking about private sector. Demand-driven varieties is very important. We need to move from market, what market want, and we produce technology that I desire. Sweet potato, for instance, was a crop that was not known. But with the branding of the orange sweet potato and the production of puree, using puree in bread making in different products, it has become a high-profile crop that is demanded in many countries now. And we can substitute wheat up to 40% with orange sweet potato puree, which is something that is demanded by the market. So I would say that market-driven approach, technology that can help sell themselves, very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Market-driven approach. Let's hand over the microphone to Athanas. We have these good varieties from Rwanda. What is actually happening in Rwanda? In 1 minute, then we go to the audience.
Thank you very much. In Rwanda, based on the importance of cassava in the country, the cassava is one of the priority policies in Rwanda. So as a cassava breeder, we are trying to get varieties resistant to cassava ground disease, the main challenge, and cassava mosaic, as well as drought-friendly varieties. So as you can see, in progress, we have 2 varieties. These are both varieties. So these 2 varieties were released last year, together with other 5 varieties. They have good traits. They are highly yielding varieties, and the farmers, of course, traits like very important, which is basically for the industry, the processing industry, right? Also, in addition to variety development, we, cassava has the level of integration. So we are trying to approach the rapid adaptation technologies, including the message to improve the electronics and to not spend cuttings in this greenhouse. And also, we are trying to make these varieties popular to be adopted to farmers. So through demonstration boards across the country, and we have also established centers, basic centers, basically farmers cooperatives. So basically, we are supporting farmer cooperative to multiply green cassava planting material. So also we, sustainable cassava system cannot exist without integrating the varieties. We are also trying to clean the varieties so that yearly or seasonally we inject green planting material in the system, as we know that our farmers share plant material. Our farmers share plant material, less infected material around. So we are trying to sustain that system so that farmers can have a good yield. Again, there is government program of crop insurance. Without a sustainable seed system, that program insurance cannot exist, cannot fail. Because cassava take a year to mature. So the accumulation balances can be a challenge to the program. So we are trying to make cassava seed system sustainable so that farmers can get good benefit. So we are really appreciating the efforts and blueprint in the cassava sector. Like basic tool model, we wish to get that model in Ghana. Because what we are doing is our model, but we want to get basic model to Ghana. And I'm happy that in the future plan, they will expand it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Athanas. Now, yesterday I was looking at the data from FAO, and I discovered that the value of the seed system in Nigeria, if you calculate an estimate, is about 436 million USD. The same thing if you go to Tanzania, the statistics shows 58 million US dollars. And this is something that we need to see how we take advantage of the seed sector. Ladies and gentlemen, let me hand over the microphone to Dr. Bernard Van Lyle, the IT director. We intend this should be a breakfast meeting, so it's not going to be too long. We will continue from where I'm stopping. Bernard?
Yeah, thanks, Godwin. Personally, I love cassava also, just like. Yeah, personally, I love cassava also, but for a number of other reasons than why we are here. Within the new CGR, I'm leading a program on agronomy, which was actually generated by the success we've demonstrated with cassava agronomy. So I also love cassava a lot, but probably for other reasons than why we are here. So it's excellent to hear all this extremely well-documented advances that all of you have made. So congratulations for that, really. I was asked by the chairman to replace President Obasanjo, who moved into a press conference right now. So I'm seeing a number of colleagues, people, participants who are invited to have a few comments based on what they've heard and seen and their own experiences with cassava in their respective environments. I'm seeing a number of people here, Godwin. I'm not sure who is present. Maybe I will go through the list and see if the respective people are here and if they could say a few words of comments or appreciation on what they've been hearing. So I'm seeing the Honorable Minister of Agriculture of Uganda, Dr. Fred Bueno. Are you around, sir? Her Excellency Rhoda, ex-IIT board member, are you around, madam, to give a few words? Dr. Harold, I've seen you around, so welcome. Could you give a few comments on what you've seen? Dr. Harold, and
Thank you very much. First of all, it's a very, very, very exciting moment. I should reveal that I did my doctoral research project at SIAT in 1974-75 on cassava. At that time, everybody working on cassava was laughed at because my chosen field was on winter hardiness of wheat. And then I said, wheat, I don't think we'll have wheat production or winter in Cameroon during my lifetime. So I will not be doing the research on winter hardiness. But to see cassava has gone from a poor man's food to the laughable research project to become the center of discussion now as a company, a serious component for food security. I think it's a fantastic progress that has been made. To see we address the concerted effort that has been made on a chart by African Development Bank and the Bill and Melinda Foundation to put together a program for a sustainable seed system to bring improved planting material to farmers. And we hear reports here from farmers who have actually made a good fortune from cassava seed system. I think it's fantastic. So I would say that we are all now involved in a wonderful program to make cassava to be the new engine for transformation of African agriculture, reduction of poverty, improvement of nutrition, and especially so in more tropical parts of Africa that are adapted to cassava production. Thank you very much. I think it's a very exciting.
Thank you, Dr. Namanga. Could you hand the microphone to Dr. Harold? Yeah. We've seen one of the successes of this program is effective partnerships, of course.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Harold, if you could add your comments.
Yeah, thanks very much. On a more personal note, I brought when I was younger, I was at Njala, that's Sierra Leone, and then the house where it was surrounded by cassava, and we learned how to do cassava. I didn't do my PhD, so I did my PhD on cow, which I think is complementary to a lot of things. But it's important when seeing the progress that had to be. And I think this project is actually demonstrating that years of research that has led to the production of cassava that is actually positioned to actually respond to the food security. Another important thing is the seed system. The land is being said over. It's important to have very good seed system. This has been a lot of discussion on this during this AJR meeting, and I hope that that will actually raise awareness. And I know we talked about it, it's important, not only for cassava, but other stuff. In regards to once here, I think that it's I don't have much to say. It's one big family, it's science, and what we're saying now is that we should integrate partnerships between water and scaling, and we've had quite a good number of examples of that. I think that's what we're trying to do. We have built a new division that's called Vision for Partnerships that we hope will actually take our products, science, innovations to the ground, right to the ground. And we're hoping that all of these models that have been explored and thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Harold. The last person will probably ask for comments is Dr. Baker, who's leading one of those CGR projects on seed systems. So, Dr. Ian, would you add your remarks? Maybe transfer the microphone here. Thanks.
Thank you. My name is Ian Barker. We are I'm also representing the Seed Equal initiative of the Advanced CGIAR. I'm also here representing Sonia Vermeulen, what is called the genetic innovation area of work, which includes the work on gene banks and breeding and also seed. So greetings also from Sonia Vermeulen and Advanced CGIAR. So within the initiative on seeds that we call Seed Equal, which started this year, we break that work down in a number of work packages, and we put together crops in these different kinds of crops, which we call crop archetypes. So window one is cereal, work package one is cereals, work package two is legumes, work package three is the vegetatively propagated crops, which of course includes cassava. We feel as though these vegetatively propagated crops, as we all know, as Paul mentioned, the Irish potato, they have things in common in relation to their seed systems, the problems and the bottlenecks that we face. And some of the solutions are similar to the vegetatively propagated crops. So we decided to put the work together, the work on cassava seed systems along with yam, banana, sweet potato, Irish potato. That work, as I said, started this year. That work will need to be coordinated with the different bilateral projects on cassava, and we look forward to working with you all in that spirit of cooperation with all these different bilateral projects to make sure that all this adds up to more than the sum of its parts. So we look forward to working with you all, with external partners as well as we take this work forward. It's inception year, and it's really good to be here. This is a really fantastic opportunity for me as the leader of Seed Equal to actually to meet you all here today and hear about this great work. And of course, I think we should say these initiatives are thought of as new in some sense, but of course we build on the foundations of all this great work that's been done by all of you here, including our private sector partners. So the work builds on solid foundations. We all of us stand on the shoulders of the people who go before us. and we have a very solid foundation of work here to build upon. And I think actually what we've heard today is really encouraging. I'm my training and experience in Irish potato specialist is interesting to follow on from Paul's remarks. And all of these crops do face this issue. The reason we put the crops in the different groups, the cereals, the legumes, and the vegetative crops, is their multiplication rates are different, their biology is different. The economics that sit behind them is different as well. And of course, the great challenge of the vegetative crops, we all know that the challenge is to get clean seed of good varieties with the farmers' hands. Farmers know what to do with the planting material. They don't need to understand the science sometimes. We need to give them choice.
Yep,
thanks,
Dr. Barker. For the final session, I'm handing back to Godwin, who is obviously best placed to lead the closure of the session. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Bernard. Please, let's give him encouragement for doing that so well. Let me invite the director for the Department of Agriculture and Agro-Industry at the African Development Bank, Dr. Martin Fagene, to come and give us warm remarks. Please, let's encourage him.
Thank you, Godwin. I want to commend ITA, and also commend Godwin and commend Chief Dixon for organizing this meeting. You know, when you think about scaling technologies, the bank is always talking about weeds, you know, I'm sure you've heard that, we're talking about rice, we're talking about maize, nobody talking about that. But this morning, just listening to Her Royal Majesty, they want to 14, how the food system is going commercial. People are making money. People are able to get money to buy salt, buy soap, and get to school. You know, there's a story here. And honestly, listening to Chief Olusegun talk about this anecdote of how people in Nigeria eat cassava 10 times a week. You know, just listening to the Tanzanian guy who made so much money. That's the story here. Listening to Chief and Professor Sonny about it all, listening to President Obasanjo about cassava, flour, and bread, you realize that the seed system has become even more important. Of mercy, IIT has become more important. Let me share a personal anecdote with you. I used to work at the International Center of Tropical Agriculture in Cali, Colombia. We had an office in Thailand. Like most of you know, Thailand in the 80s we export a lot of chips to Europe because if you go back to President Kennedy, he wanted Thailand to continue as a democratic country and not as a communist country. So he asked the Europeans to allow them to bring in whatever they can bring in so they have market. I thought I was exporting a lot of them. Then the Europeans said, okay, the economies are complaining, they stopped that whole chip business. And then we help them develop high-standard varieties. And working with the local university, we developed a very popular variety now called S250, high starch. And it moved to the farmers in 2 years. 2 years. And starch factories, 200 in 10 years. You know, the power of system to transform cassava into flour for bread, into something all cannot be overemphasized. It's very important. We at the bank are very happy associated with this system. But I encourage you, integrate the system with what I did is trying to integrate production, prison, and marketing. Let us all come together, say it's one vertically integrated platform. Then the farmers can make more money, not only in Nigeria, but also in Tanzania and Ghana. And also, the country will not have to rely so much on the imported wheat again. We can use capital flour. This is really exciting. Thank you very much.
Beatrice, a round of applause to Dr. Fregene. Thank you so much for your time. I know you were supposed to be in another meeting, but you had to cancel that to be part of this meeting. Thank you so much. Let me invite, check in the house, is Dr. Beatrice Wamukize around to give us a word of thanks? Oh, thank you so much, ma. So please, we'd like to have a word of thanks from you. Thank you, ma.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, dear delegates, distinguished guests, good morning. It's my pleasure and honor to get this opportunity to deliver a vote of thanks at this important occasion of discussion on cassava seed systems in HRIF 2022 summit. This session has been a learning opportunity and occasion to appreciate the progress that is being made to improve the access of farmers to quality cassava seed. As we all know, getting high quality cassava seed is a long process that involves various processes and stakeholders, including researchers, seed producers, seed dealers, of course, regulators and policymakers. Despite this long process, according to what was discussed here, it is possible to avail high quality cassava seed to farmers as commercial commodity. And this is a result of joint effort of cassava seed value chain actors and of course with development partners. At this end, allow me to express my sincere gratitude to our development partners, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Basics 2 Project, Technologies of African Agricultural Transformation, the program for Technologies of African Agricultural Transformation, and African Development Bank, AGRA, and others. Thank you all for the continued support on this journey. I would also like to thank our moderator and of course our panelists for their experience shared with us. It was very interesting. I would also like to express my gratitude to HRF partner groups. My gratitude also goes to the government of Rwanda for having established the RICA institution. It's an institution in full, it's Rwanda Inspectorate Competition and Consumer Protection Authority, which has in its responsibilities inspection and certification of seed. So thank you very much all for this opportunity.
A round of applause again to Dr. Beatrice. Let me, before I invite Bernard to close this session, let me acknowledge all the online participants. Thank you so much for joining in this meeting and staying with us up to this moment. I was told that the Director General of RAB was in the house. Is he still in the house? Okay, all right. So thanks to everyone, and let me invite Dr. Bernard Valao to close the meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Godwin. And I will probably not repeat what has been said. I mean, this is an example of a success project. You had a good entry point, a really critical challenge that you've been addressing, and I think you've addressed it in the context of very effective partnerships with results that we can all be proud of, I would say. So congratulations to all the people involved, to the people leading this. And of course, thanks a lot to the people having supported this effort. There is a future for this type of work. I think we heard about the new CGR investing in seed systems, investing in partnerships. So the environment is absolutely right to scale this up. We've heard examples from Nigeria and Tanzania, but there's a lot of other countries investing in cassava. Recently, the Congolese government has accepted to put cassava flour in their bread, based also on interactions with President Obasanjo. I used to ask people, do you know the city in the world that consumes the highest number of baguette per day? Baguette is the French bread. Of course, people will say it's Paris, but it's not, it's Kinshasa. So they are now also having a policy in place to replace some of the flour with cassava. So this news is spreading to a lot of other countries. I would like to probably repeat one thing that Martin Fregeni has said. Seeds are important and critical. You know, seed is the basis. But seed needs to be integrated into other packages also, into good agronomy, into, you know, all these things we've been discussing about accessing market and processing. So we put it in the context of an integrated program on cassava intensification. I saw it somewhere here, and I think, Madam, you've done that already, you've said it. So well done, everyone. Thanks for being here. I would say enjoy your breakfast in case you haven't, and looking forward to see this moving into the next gear, basically. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bernard. So this, where we will draw the curtain, but a group photo for the panelists. Can you just stand and come together so that you can have a group photo? Yeah. Please have your breakfast, because this is a breakfast meeting. Chief, can you join them? Harold, can you join? Bernard, can you join? Steve Magige, you know we are also panelists, so you have to join. Lauren Good, please can you join? Dr. Ngongi, yeah, so I also join. Thank you. Breakfast continues.